Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine stripping away every layer of modern life, civilization, society, maybe even your own identity to forge a completely new existence on an isolated island.
Yeah.
What would that truly demand of you? And what's surprising, perhaps, uncomfortable truths about human nature, about survival, about this whole idea of paradise, would you end up uncovering?
It's a question that really hits home, doesn't it? Today, we're doing a deep dive into this really captivating narrative, one inspired by actual events. It's the story of a few individuals who, driven by, well, incredibly diverse and often conflicting reasons, chose to live on this remote island.
Right.
Essentially trying to rewrite the rule book for human society,
Our mission, then, is to really understand their journey, to peel back those layers, the initial idealism, expose the harsh realities they actually faced, and look at the complex, often volatile relationships that formed there.
Yeah.
We're looking for those surprising, sometimes pretty dark twists their whole experiment in isolation took. Because this isn't just about survival, is it? It's a profound human drama. It really asks us to think about what truly defines us when everything else is just gone.
And to set the stage properly for this drama, we need to go back, way back to 1929.
Yep.
The world was, frankly, a mess, still reeling from World War I, grappling with a global economic collapse. And Germany, specifically, was deep in societal ruin, widespread corruption. People were just desperate for an escape.
Right. Turbulent times, to say the least.
Right.
And against this backdrop, we meet our first key players, Dr. Ritter, a German doctor, and his partner, Dory. They decided to just abandon Germany entirely for this distant, supposedly deserted island, determined to live completely on their own terms.
And Ritter especially, he had this grand vision, almost messianic, really. He saw it as his self-appointed mission to save humanity.
Save humanity.
By writing a new philosophy of life. One based on a simple, stripped-down existence, totally free from unnecessary luxuries. His core belief was that true salvation, true freedom, could only be reached through suffering.
Wow.
Suffering was necessary to reach truth, in his view.
So a man literally chasing suffering for philosophical purity. That's
Yeah.
something. And their only link back to the world they left was this incredibly fragile connection, a wooden mailbox on the beach.
That's it, a mailbox. He'd send letters via a passing ship, apparently not even caring if they ever reached Germany. His only significant possession, the tool for his grand mission, was a typewriter.
What strikes you about that initial setup, that mix of intense idealism and such harsh, self-imposed isolation?
Well, what's fascinating is the paradox, isn't it? He preached isolation, self-sufficiency, yet he still needed to send out his writings.
Yeah.
Even if he claimed he didn't care about the reception. It tells you something about the human need for an audience, I think, even for a hermit. And Dory's role in all this, well, it's intriguing. We don't hear much about her philosophy initially, just Ritter's.
That's a great point. Makes you wonder about the unspoken things, maybe, beneath all the grand declarations. Okay, so fast forward just 3 years, 1932. And suddenly, this isolated experiment, not so isolated anymore.
No, a new family arrives. We get our first look at them through a letter Margaret writes to her mother. She reveals that she and her husband, Heinz, sold absolutely everything they owned to make this journey.
Everything. Wow. Why?
Well, Heinz, it turns out, was a huge admirer of Dr. Ritter.
Oh, okay.
His motivation came directly from Ritter's published letters, which had actually gained quite a following back in Germany. He was just incredibly excited to finally meet his idol, join this big philosophical experiment.
But Margaret, maybe the more practical one, had a pretty immediate, stark reality check, didn't she?
Oh, absolutely. She wrote about expecting, lush trees, this idyllic landscape. But the island was much harsher than she'd imagined.
Right.
Her only consolation, at least at first, was freedom from worries about rent, housing, pollution. It sounds like she basically traded one set of anxieties for a whole new set.
Definitely. And they brought someone with them.
Yes, Harry. Heinz's son from his deceased first wife. He suffered from severe tuberculosis. They had this desperate hope the island's clean air might help him, especially since treatment back home was so expensive.
So that adds another layer of vulnerability of hope to their arrival.
It does. And their first meeting with Ritter and Dory is, well, it's quite something. After a 45-minute trek to Ritter's place, they find him doing yoga, almost like he's posing for his followers.
Huh. Performative.
Exactly. And Dory immediately makes it crystal clear she's not Ritter's wife. She announces they've abandoned societal norms like marriage, which she actually claims causes illness.
Causes illness. Wow. Okay, that's quite a first impression.
It really sets the tone. Ritter, despite maybe feeling a bit proud to have followers, he still clearly wanted his isolation. He gave them the tour, but it was basically a long list of warnings.
Like what?
12 months just to get a garden going, very limited water, wild animals everywhere. Cows, dogs, and especially these destructive wild pigs. He really hammered home that farming there required immense, relentless effort.
And Dory backed him up, discouraging them.
Oh, yeah. She echoed all Ritter's warnings to Margaret, mentioned deadly insects, pests. She even questioned Margaret's marriage, thinking Harry was her son, until Margaret corrected her.
But there was that detail about her donkey.
Yes, that really stood out. Her obvious affection for her donkey, treating it like a pet, which Ritter apparently disliked. It feels significant, doesn't it? A little glimpse of Dory's own humanity, maybe, separate from Ritter's rigid ideas.
Absolutely. It highlights maybe a difference between them. Ritter's all about abstract ideals. Dory's attached to something tangible, something alive. And speaking of Dory, Hines asked about her health condition.
He did. Her bone sclerosis. Ritter just claimed it was healing. Another hint, perhaps, at the physical toll this extreme life was taking.
Okay, here's where Ritter's intentions seem less than pure. He leads them to this dry pirate cave, far from his place.
Right. No water source except rainwater runoff. He presented it as temporary, but the sources say he secretly laughed.
Laugh?
Yeah. He was confident they wouldn't last, that they'd leave quickly because, frankly, he didn't actually want neighbors.
So much for the philosopher welcoming followers.
Exactly. It reveals the hypocrisy, doesn't it? The man wanting to save humanity really just wanted to be left alone. Margaret's first night was predictably awful. Insect noises drove her mad. Life became, as she put it, torturous, a huge gap between the dream and the reality.
Yet Heinz, fueled by his admiration for Ritter, he didn't give up.
Not at all. His enthusiasm seems boundless. He was determined to make that cave work, even built a new channel for rainwater. Their joy when they finally got a working spring going, it must have been huge, a small win.
A vital one, I imagine. But then more challenges.
Of course, Margaret found out she was pregnant. Another layer of vulnerability, responsibility.
Oh.
And then wild dogs got into some of their precious canned food, forced them to hide what was left. These weren't just annoyances, they were direct threats to their survival.
And right when they needed help moving more supplies, Dory refused to lend the donkey.
Flat out refused, claimed it was busy, even though it clearly wasn't. So Margaret and Hines had to carry everything themselves. After all Dory's warnings, that refusal, it feels like a key moment, early friction setting in.
It really highlights this self-interest bubbling up, doesn't it? Even among those supposedly escaping society's problems. And speaking of intrusions, a gunshot signals the next arrival.
The grand, chaotic intrusion. The Baroness, described as beautiful, arrogant, and she arrives with the whole team. Rudy the engineer, and 2 guards, Robo and Manuel.
She has a completely different vision for the island, right? Not philosophy, not survival, but...
A luxury tourist resort. She saw it as her new tourism resort, seemed totally unfazed by the people already there, happily swimming like she owned the place.
Which, as we find out later,
Yeah.
she kind of did plan to.
Pretty much. So they visit Ritter. He welcomes them, seems friendly enough, but then quite deliberately points them towards Heinz's spring as a good spot.
Oh, deliberately. To cause trouble.
Clearly, he was trying to sow discord, annoy Heinz, and the Baroness and her team, either oblivious or just not caring, proceeded to bathe right in Heinz's only source of drinking water.
You can't make this stuff up. Heinz must have been furious.
He tried to stop them, explain how vital it was. It's just an instant clash of worlds, isn't it? Ritter's purity, Heinz's pragmatism, and the Baroness's sheer self-indulgence.
Absolutely. So the Baroness apologizes, introduces herself,
Yeah.
and then hands Heinz Ritter's mail, which she's already opened.
Yep, already open. Ritter, sharp as he was, immediately knew this was calculated. A move to create conflict.
A manipulator.
Total master manipulator. She then twists the knife further, telling Heinz that Ritter sent her to his spring on purpose, implying Ritter wanted to turn them against each other, drive them off. And then she shows him her detailed plans for this lavish resort. It's not just a physical invasion, it's psychological warfare.
The conflicts over resources just ramped up from there, I assume.
Immediately. The Baroness warns Ritter about a wild pig near his garden, which then, of course, destroys his crops. Cruel irony, maybe. Meanwhile, Heinz, ever the survivor, manages to capture a cow, builds a pen, finally gets milk, shows his adaptability versus Ritter's, rigidness.
A clear contrast in how they're coping.
Definitely. When spring finally came, Heinz had built a proper house, harvested their first vegetables, a huge triumph after living on cans and herbs. But the Baroness and her crew immediately moved right next door,
Oh, great.
using his water, claiming they'd stay until Rudy found their own source.
Which he never did.
Spoilers, but no. Margaret, understandably, tried to get them to leave. The Baroness then tried to mess with her head, tried to turn her against Heinz, calling him old and boring.
But Margaret stood firm.
She did. Asserted her love, her pregnancy, her need for peace. But the Baroness just insisted on staying. And just to pour salt in Ritter's wounds, another wild pig attacked his garden, destroying everything left. He was completely frustrated and, crucially, out of food. That feels like the breaking point for him.
It absolutely sounds like it. This is where Ritter's philosophy really hits the rocks, isn't it?
It's the first major compromise, a huge moment. He hears a gunshot from Heinz's place, goes over, finds Heinz's thriving farm, his rifle, and Ritter, desperate, trades chicks for the head of Heinz's cow.
Wow.
His first meat in ages, directly violating his own long-held vegetarianism.
So the philosopher of suffering basically gives in to the most basic survival instinct. What did Dory think?
She was deeply upset, urged him to stick to his principles, but Ritter's response is so telling. He argued principles adapt to self-interest, and he pointedly noted Heinz's success where he, the supposed idealist, had failed.
What does that really say about Ritter's core character, then?
It shows how fragile his idealism was when faced with harsh reality. His philosophy, it seems, was maybe more theory than practice. It's a powerful lesson, you know? How even rigid ideals can just fracture under pressure. This wasn't just about diet. It was a fundamental crack in the philosophy he came there to write.
And Dory saw this.
And became even more disillusioned. She revealed her multiple sclerosis was getting worse, affecting her legs. She needed a cane. And she felt mocked by Ritter's dismissive attitude towards her own suffering. She left him furious.
Meanwhile, things weren't great at the Baroness's camp either. Rudy still hadn't found water.
Nope, still failing. The Baroness, now out of canned goods herself, just unleashed her fury on him, and Rudy finally snapped, exposed her lies about the hotel, their dwindling food, the whole facade was crumbling. The Baroness, totally humiliated, ran off, fell. Harry, out gathering firewood, found her. She tried to pump him for info, learned Heinz had canned goods, but Harry, bless him, didn't say where.
Good for Harry. But the Baroness wasn't deterred, I imagine.
Not one bit. Later, while Heinz and Harry were out hunting, Manuel and Robo spied on Margaret, who was in labor.
Oh, no.
They broke into her house and stole all the canned goods. Just pure malice, a direct threat to a mother and child.
That's horrific. What did Margaret do?
In excruciating pain, totally alone, she called for help from the Baroness's camp. The Baroness just ignored her.
Ignored her while she was in labor.
Just ignored her. Margaret went back home, hid, tried to give birth alone. The thieves got away with the food, which the Baroness, in her greed, still thought wasn't enough. Even Rudy wanted to help Margaret, but the Baroness shut him down, said he was only there to help her. Chilling self-preservation.
Unbelievable. But things took a turn.
Desperate. Margaret found herself surrounded by rabid dogs. Thankfully, Heinz heard her screams, fired a shot, scared them off, and got there just in time to help deliver a healthy baby.
Thank goodness.
He then went and got Ritter. And Ritter, despite saying the island was no place for children, actually came through, returned to his doctor duties, and helped Margaret and the baby.
A moment of humanity from him then. Unexpected.
It was. But when Manuel reported this back, the Baroness was absolutely furious, said Ritter should have been stopped from helping. She wanted them driven apart, even if someone dies.
She actually said that.
Yep. Willing to let a mother and baby die for her goals. Pure sociopathy. She even fired Manuel for calling her a devil, as if hearing the truth was the real offense.
Incredible. Yet somehow, Margaret wrote home saying things were okay.
Yeah, she wrote to her mother. Said she was, well, Harry's health was better, they had adapted, healthy grandchild. It's a real testament to her resilience, I think. A little bit of hope in all that darkness.
It really is. And then the Baroness tries to smooth things over.
With a fake apology. Blamed Manuel for the theft, gave Margaret this tiny box of oatmeal, and then insidiously suggested Margaret and the baby should leave the island for a better life, inviting them all to a celebratory dinner.
Oh, I bet Heinz loved that idea.
He was deeply suspicious, but agreed. Just to try to keep the peace, maybe. Ritter and Dory also came, setting the stage for a truly explosive confrontation.
I can only imagine the tension, especially since the food was.
Heinz's stolen canned goods.
Mm-mm.
Exactly. The irony is thick. The Baroness, just relentlessly cruel, noticed Dory looking at the baby, figured out Dory wanted children, and then deliberately started talking about pregnancy, birth, graphic details, just to upset Dory.
Psychological torture.
Absolutely. And she kept poking at Margaret about Heinz, too. Then she turned on Ritter, publicly humiliated him, said he was just like her, seeking attention with his letters to newspapers.
Ouch. How did they react?
Dory, maybe feeling emboldened, actually mocked the Baroness's resort dream, which led the Baroness to retort, implying Dory couldn't have kids because Ritter was sterile.
Whoa.
That was the final straw for Ritter. He defended Dory, but did it by revealing she'd had a hysterectomy.
He revealed that
What?
publicly.
A total betrayal. Dory was enraged, called Ritter incomplete, tried to leave.
Devastating for her.
And the Baroness wasn't finished. Threatened Dory with her dog. Ritter, finally pushed over the edge, snapped, ordered the Baroness and her crew off his island, threatened to chain them up, throw them in the sea.
But the Baroness had a trump card.
The ultimate trump card, pulled a gun, revealed she'd bought the entire island 1,000 hectares except for Ritter's tiny 13-hectare plot, produced a signed document, then threatened to imprison him in his own home. Complete power reversal.
Absolutely stunning. The sheer planning involved in her dominance. So Ritter's trapped. What happens next?
Heinz gets home, Ritter's waiting. The idealist is gone. Ritter, now utterly pragmatic, offers 9 kilos of rice for a rifle.
Rice for a rifle. Survival mode.
Heinz agrees, needing the food. That night, there's this quiet moment. Heinz asks Margaret about why she married him. She explains her sister was engaged, her mother called her slow. She was 23, said she didn't regret it. A little reminder of the personal stories driving them.
Yeah, humanizes her choice amidst the chaos. And Ritter, with his new rifle.
Immediately goes and practices by killing the pig that wrecked his garden.
Revenge, not survival.
Exactly. Dory tries to stop him, sees he hasn't shed his aggression at all. Then summer hits hard. Drought. Spring's drying up. Ritter hits a creative block, can't write. His philosophy is failing him completely. Heinz is struggling, hunting reptiles to find food. The island is really testing them.
And the Baroness's camp.
Yeah.
Still falling apart.
Yep. Rudy goes to Heinz for food, confesses everything. The Baroness is fake. Her life is like a movie. Her fame superficial. Warns Heinz she's like a contagion. Robo, loyal guard, beats Rudy for this betrayal. The whole group is imploding.
Then out of nowhere, a filmmaker arrives.
Bizarre, right? Rich businessman, filmmaker, wants to document their lives. Everyone's suddenly excited by this link to the outside world. He invites them to dinner, mentions their global fame, but says he's leaving soon on a sea voyage.
And this just triggers more conflict.
Instantly, Ritter tries to hoard food before others. The Baroness tries to seduce the filmmaker, fails, and immediately orders her guards to steal Ritter's food.
It's like a miniature, intense version of society's worst impulses.
It really is. Leads to this huge standoff. Ritter and Heinz confront the Baroness, threatening her. Everyone pulls out weapons. It's Margaret, again, who steps in and prevents bloodshed right then.
She seems to be the only voice of reason left. But the final betrayal, the one that really breaks things, the donkey.
Ah, yes, the donkey. The Baroness manipulates Rudy, forces him to steal Dory's beloved donkey, plant it near Heinz's home, and wreck his water path. Heinz, in the dark, thinking it's a predator, accidentally shoots and kills the donkey.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Dory must have been destroyed.
Utterly collapsed in grief, it was her one companion. Heinz confessed to Ritter, totally distraught, and Robo was seen watching, confirming the plan worked. The sheer malice of the Baroness's act. It's almost unbelievable.
That had to be the point of no return.
It was. Heinz and Ritter, finally united against her, agree they have to confront the Baroness. Rudy, hiding nearby, breaks down, confesses the Baroness forced him. Heinz sends Margaret and Harry away for safety. Then Heinz, Rudy, and Ritter go to confront her. Robo attacks. Heinz, in the struggle, stabs and kills Robo.
Kills him.
Kills him. The Baroness then comes out, pretending she's now free from Robo's control, tries one last manipulation, offering to divide the island.
But it's too late.
Way too late. Before she can finish, Ritter, having crossed his own moral line long ago, shoots her in the head.
Shoots her dead.
Shoots her dead. They throw her body into the sea, and in this chilling moment of complicity, they agree to silence. The grand experiment ends in cold-blooded murder.
And Margaret, hearing the shot, she suspects.
Immediately suspects Ritter, warns Heinz, points out his rifle wasn't used. She's sharp. Meanwhile, the darkness just keeps spiraling. Dory confronts Ritter, calls him a traitor. He actually hits her.
He hits her.
Yeah. She leaves. Devastated, runs into Margaret. Margaret warns her about Ritter's madness, mentions dead chickens, subtly suggesting poisoning as a possibility or perhaps a warning.
Or an idea.
Unclear. But Rudy sees his chance and escapes on a mail ship, sailing against the current, leaving the island's grim secrets behind.
And Dory, what does she do?
She seeks her own justice. She poisons Ritter with those dead chickens.
She actually does it.
He dies of food poisoning. And Dory, cold and calculated, calls Heinz and Margaret over as witnesses.
Wow. Then the outside world finally intervenes.
Autumn arrives, and so do the police. They come to arrest Heinz for the Baroness's murder, based on Ritter's very last letter, which detailed the whole event. The officer tells Margaret that Dory corroborated the accusation.
So Ritter essentially set Heinz up from beyond the grave, and Dory backed it up.
Seems so. But Margaret, ever the pragmatist, sees through it. She points out how unlikely it is for someone to just die of food poisoning after 4 years surviving on that island. She suggests foul play, and directs them to investigate Dory.
Brilliant. What happened then, the final fates?
Dory is arrested, sent back to Germany, and eventually dies from her illness, a tormented end. Heinz and his family are the sole survivors left on the island. Their resilience is incredible. Robo and the Baroness's bodies, never found, swallowed by the sea.
And Rudy, the escapee.
Him and the ship captain were found dead on another isolated island, their boat destroyed. Escape was ultimately futile for them too.
But Margaret, she stayed.
Remarkably, yes. Margaret lived on that island until she was 96, passed away in 2000. And her descendants, they still live there today. They even manage a small tourist hotel. A strange, enduring legacy after all that darkness.
So what do we take away from this extraordinary, brutal story? What began as this idealistic quest for a new, pure life, it just transformed into this profound, often horrifying exploration of human resilience, the seductive nature of control, and the really surprising ways isolation can, well, both purify and corrupt.
Yeah, it really shows how even the purest intentions can get twisted, warped by external pressures, but also by just profound internal weaknesses.
This whole narrative really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If you were in a truly isolated place, stripped of all the usual rules and protections, what parts of your humanity would you cling to, and what parts might you inevitably shed?
And what does that say about the core of who we are, even back here in the supposedly civilized world, where maybe those pressures are just a bit more subtle?